Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Make sure you have your own notepads and no one else's notepad. Cross-examination.
Mr. Dontell, were you married in a church?
No.
Where were you married?
Where?
Yeah.
At Ripken Stadium in Maryland.
Okay. Did you take any vows at that wedding?
I did, yes.
Did you vow to be faithful to your wife?
Yes.
You weren't, though, were you?
No.
In fact, there were numerous occasions where you weren't faithful to her. Isn't that true?
Correct.
For a long period of time, several months, you were having sex with Meagan Jackson, right?
Correct.
All over the place. At your house and other places.
Correct.
Okay. And your wife was still living in your house.
Correct.
And nowhere during that time did you tell her what was happening.
No.
You didn't say, you know, I've met somebody and we need to separate.
No.
You were having sex with both of them, isn't that true?
Correct.
And that is worse than a lie, isn't it, sir? That's betrayal, isn't it?
I suppose so.
You're the kind of man that will lie and betray his own wife. Isn't that true?
I did for a period of time, yes.
Well, if bad enough one time, how about 15 or 20?
Is the question how about 15 or 20?
Well, let's just say, how many times do you have sex with Meagan Jackson?
I don't know.
Too many to count, right?
I suppose so.
You met your wife, seems like a fine person. You broke her heart, didn't you?
Yes.
You're the kind of man that's so selfish. He'll hurt others. You cried about your family? Up here on that stand, you cried about your family? You weren't crying about your family when you were doing what you were doing with Meagan Jackson, were you?
No, I was completely blind to everything that was going on aside from Meagan.
Oh, well, let me ask you about that. You blame Meagan Jackson for having oral sex for you and all that kind of thing. You blame her?
I don't blame Meagan Jackson for that. No, sir. I blame myself.
That's a good point. You blame yourself. You're not blaming her. You talked at the beginning like she did this, she did that. You're a grown man. You could have decided to tell her no and never have anything to do with it. Could.
I could have.
And you could have stopped anytime you wanted to. Right?
Yes.
Okay. But you did stop. Even after the way you described these events of that night, through your tears, you were still having sex with Meagan Jackson afterwards.
Correct, for a period, yes.
Okay? So now that takes a special man, doesn't it? To see the things you saw and cry all those tears, and you go right back to having sex with her. That's unusual, isn't it?
I don't know if it's usual or not.
Well, it's wrong, wasn't it?
I would say it was wrong.
Yeah, that Bible you put your hand over says it's wrong, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's adultery. You were committing adultery, right?
Right.
And that's in the Ten Commandments that you're not supposed to do it.
Objection, Your Honor. Is there a question on that?
Yeah, I'm asking a question because you understand that it's in the Bible that you don't commit adultery.
I do understand that, yes.
But you were doing it, right?
I've answered this question several times now. Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. Now, let's talk about your statements. You freely admitted, I believe, on direct examination that you have lied to the police throughout this process.
Correct.
As you sit there today, even you admit that your testimony is unreliable because you're a liar.
What's the question?
You admit that you're unreliable because of the lies you told and the deception you have practiced.
No, I do not admit that.
All right. So you finally decided to tell the truth today, huh?
I decided to tell the truth once I had protection from your client, once my family was protected from her and her threats.
You were scared of it.
Yes.
Why didn't you leave her? Better yet, why didn't you go tell the police?
I was in jail during this time.
So I'm talking about that period in between. When you say all this happened, you, at that point, based on your testimony, you hadn't done anything wrong, right? When you get rid of the body, your testimony is you didn't have anything to do with the shooting. You didn't know it was going to happen, right?
That's correct. I did not know the shooting was going to happen.
Okay. So you had no agreement with Meagan Jackson to commit a crime until afterwards when you took the body and you did that by yourself, didn't you? She went with you.
We both picked up the body from the scene of death
Who took the
immediately
body?
after the death occurred.
That wasn't the question.
Who took the body to the river?
I took the body to the river.
She was not with you, isn't that true?
Not when I took the body to the river.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, you're a grown man. In fact, you were a county officer. True? Deputy
True.
Carter is a county officer.
True.
And you knew all that. You knew most of these policemen, didn't you?
Several of them,
They were
yes.
friends.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, you were friends with the policemen?
I wouldn't say we were friends. I worked alongside them frequently.
Well, they knew you were. You knew they were.
Some of them, yes.
Part of your job was working with the police.
Objection, Your Honor. He's not asking questions, he's simply making
Ask your
statements.
question.
Isn't it true that part of your job is working with the police?
Yes.
So what stopped you from going to one of your acquaintances and telling them what happened?
The fact that your client told me that if I did that, she would kill me, and I had watched her kill the father of her kids, so I believed her.
Well, why don't you go tell the police that part of the story?
Why don't I?
Yeah, you have her picked up by the police before you did anything wrong.
Because I was afraid she was going to kill me if I told the truth.
You don't expect this jury to believe that you were scared of that woman to such an extent that you wouldn't report what you consider to be and are now telling us is her misconduct. You're not that scared cat, are you?
What was the question?
Are you scared? You said you did things wrong, but you scared of that woman sitting over there.
Absolutely.
My question is, as a county officer, why did you take matters into your own hand and report her and see that justice was served on her?
I've answered this question twice already, and the answer is because she told me she would kill me, and I had seen her kill the father of her kids, and I believed that she would kill me as well.
Okay. So, but nothing kept you from reporting it except your fear.
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered multiple times.
I got him on cross in a word case.
Go ahead. Ask your question, to you.
Nothing except your fear of that little woman there prevented you from reporting these incidents to the police. True or false?
That's true.
Okay. Now, let's look at your guilty plea. You remember that pretty well?
I believe so.
Okay. And let me take you through what I believe happened there. You remember who the judge was?
Who the judge was?
Yeah.
Alex Hyman.
Yeah. Yeah. So you decided at the last minute, right as Miss Waller was standing up, make an opening statement, that you were going to plead to something, right?
This is
Correct.
important.
Okay. And so, once you said that, they shifted into a guilty plea instead of a full-blown trial. Isn't that true?
Correct.
Okay. And part of that process was to stand you up in front of the judge and put you under oath.
Correct.
Okay. So in other words, you swore in that setting to tell the truth to a sitting circuit judge.
Objection, Your Honor. Still not a question.
He was asking the questions, right?
The judge was, yes.
Judge Howland was asking the questions,
Yes.
and you were responding. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you told him you were going to tell the truth. Didn't you?
Yes.
And then what happened was Miss Walter stood up in front of the judge, and she gave a rendition of the facts that was going to be a part of the guilty plea. Isn't that true?
I believe so, yes.
Anything else? I'm not going to be cut you off.
I answered the question.
So you were there. You saw that happen. That saw her talk to the judge. Didn't you?
What's
Your
the
Honor,
question?
Your Honor, I'm just going to ask that he ask questions
Yeah,
rather than
you-
make statements.
Didn't
Ask the question.
I said, didn't you?
Well,
Didn't you stand in front of the judge after Miss Walter had spoken to the judge?
Yes.
Right. And didn't she say in your presence that you had told her you didn't know what happened to Greg Rice the night that he was brought to the funeral home? You didn't say that, did you?
I don't recall saying that. Do you have something I could read?
Yeah, let me read you something.
Oh,
Can I see what you're showing him, please?
Yeah.
he's gonna mess
I'm
up
not
this
gonna show
plea.
you this because I knew the other one was this guy, right? She'll say it.
The prosecutor actually reading it.
I need one of this. More witnesses. For identification. Yes, for identification. Yeah, I just turned it there for him. Yeah, we did. I'm not gonna ask you about it, he might want one.
Defendant's one marked.
For identification. Mr. Dontell, you're welcome to look at all this document. It is certified by a court wherever it was present during your guilty plea. You like this lady here is taking everything down?
I'm familiar.
That's
Yes.
where this came from. Okay? Now, I'm interested in page 7. Starting at line 15. I'll just read that and then I'll ask you some questions. Oh gosh, hey, we need to get his handcuffs off. He can't. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Let's see. 15. Can you see it well enough to read?
What's that?
Can you see it well enough to read?
I can, yes, sir.
Okay. Line 18,
18.
17 through 20 line, not pages. So pages.
On which page?
Page 8.
Page 8. And what lines?
Let's just go. Let's go to line 16, beginning with according to.
What date is this statement from? This is from the...
Page 8.
Yeah.
Get it together with the papers.
I'm not sure. This is, give me just a second. All right.
Camera guy just zooms in a little. Right, this guy is waiting just like the rest of us. Like, come on.
I'll call this security, you know, that's wrong transfer. I'm just reading this. I apologize.
Defendant's 2 for identification.
If you're showing him something different, can I see it, please?
Excuse me?
If you're showing him something different, may I see what you're showing him, please?
No, I showed you when I get ready to show you.
You just switched out the exhibit.
I've got mine up there. Yeah. I said, well, what you saw on that other exhibit is mine, I showed you mine. But you can see this.
I'm asking to see what you are going to show, Mr. Dontell.
Simmering up.
You boys trying to find it for me, I'll go on something else.
Yeah.
Still got it wrong.
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, can I show him this one, even though it has some lines on it?
Yeah, if it's not an exhibit.
Okay. For him, okay. Where is it?
Defendants 3 for identification.
Finding it right one. This is that same transcript we've been talking about. Okay. And, this is part of what Ms. Walker was saying. You've been looking around to see all that. This is her talking to the judge, and I'm interested in 17, 18, and 19.
17, 18, and 19.
Yeah, okay. See if that refreshes your memory.
It doesn't really refresh my memory. So what exactly are we looking for?
Doesn't it say that you told Ms. Walker?
Objection, Your Honor.
I think that's good.
No, that's not in the evidence. Okay.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you told, did you not tell, did Ms. Walker not tell the judge? She told the judge, you claim you did not.
Objection, Your Honor.
The same, he said he didn't recall. And he said that did not refresh his memory.
Apt to approach.
Have to come at it another way. Do you then deny, sir, that you told Ms. Walker you didn't know what happened to Craig Rice that night? Do you deny that?
Objection. Just as to which time? If we're talking about the...
Overruled, I'll allow that.
You read this, you deny it,
Do I deny that I told Miss Walter?
that you didn't know what happened to Craig Rice that night?
On what date are we speaking of when I spoke with Miss Walter?
Like October 2nd, 2020.
I didn't speak with Miss Walter on October 2nd.
No, you're talking about October 2nd, 2020. That's denied.
Right. I'm sorry. I just don't understand what you're asking me. Are you asking me? You're asking me when which conversation that I had with Miss Walter are you referring to?
No, you're not having a conversation with her in this one. You've already had that conversation.
I apologize. I really apologize. I'm just not following.
What? What's your objection?
That's not a question. He's
Judge.
making statements, and also Mr. Dontell is simply...
Well, he's asking back questions. My understanding is at his guilty plea, you recited the facts, and that was your facts. And he's asking him, does he recall that?
And he's already said he does not recall, and that doesn't refresh his recollection.
Let's ask him the question.
Judge, I'm going to stay on this point.
All right.
If we're here for 100 years, because this is an official transcript of his guilty plea, it recites what Ms. Walker said. It's crucial to put into evidence that he already told another
Well,
lie.
you can put the transcript into evidence.
All right, but I need to talk to you about that. Can I put it in for impeachment purposes only and not as an exhibit? I mean, I don't want to be introducing any evidence.
Well, then don't put it in, but you're not going to be able to read it.
Judge, I'd like to set this witness aside for a minute and call Ms. Walter.
Let's finish cross-examination.
Your Honor, I'd like to delay for a few minutes, see if I can get a hold of Judge Hyman.
Hold for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take up a matter of law. I'm going to excuse you back to the jury room in just a few minutes.
Holy moly noise. So it looks like he's gonna fight for a way to be able to either try to impeach this witness and be able to get in what he needs to get in without having to let the jury be able to read his entire plea agreement. Because with the plea, it's going to be the factual basis, which is basically an opportunity for the jury to read the prosecution's theory of the case.
All right, Mr. President, correct me if I'm wrong. I get the impression that you want to impeach him on a document, which is a transcript, which he says does not refresh his memory. You want to get that transcript to the jury, but you don't want to introduce it as evidence because you want to be able to close last in closing arguments.
All I want him to do is read 2 lines from the transcript.
Well, you're going to, and he read it, and it doesn't refresh his memory. The only way it can be published to the jury is if you introduce it into evidence.
Well, I'd like you to review the transcript.
For what reason?
Well, because there's Ms. Walter and I both know she made that statement to the judge. And we looked up, so.
Well, I think you're caught in a choice. If you want that information to go to the jury, you're going to have to put the transcript into evidence, which you're entitled to do. But you're not entitled to get something to the jury for the jury's review without it being in evidence.
I believe the law on this is, if I use it for impeachment purposes, it's not introducing substantive evidence.
I need the authority on that.
Okay.
All right?
Well, I need about 5 minutes right now.
All right. I'll do that too.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. All right, we'll stand in recess for about 10 minutes, okay?
Right. Oh, we got a water pour. We got a water pour. So we'll add that to the banner. We'll time travel and go ahead a little bit. And see, are you guys really calling him defense daddy? I don't know if we're going to do that here. I don't know about that one. So I have 12 water pours. I may have missed some that were silent. It's harder to catch them when they're silent. And all right, according to Pink Slime, we're using defense daddy.
Mr. President, any authority?
Judge, on the authority issue, seemed a little vague to me, but I think it might be a little risky the way I read it.
Well, it's already, I think, Rule 608.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You can ask him if he's got a prior inconsistent statement. If he admits to the prior inconsistent statement, that's it. It doesn't come in. If he denies it, then you can introduce the prior inconsistent statement to impeach his testimony. But you're not going to be able to use it to impeach his testimony without introducing it to the evidence.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah. So,
We're gonna move on past that right now. We need more time to try to figure out how to skin the cat.
Well, I understand.
And if we made us get over that part for us.
All right.
But we might put the transcript in later. It's a public document. It's a judicial proceeding. It's not hearsay. It's admissible in its own right.
I understand that. That's right.
And the state would have no objection to that admission.
But you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to get it to the jury to impeach this witness's testimony without introducing it into evidence.
we understand that.
right,
Yes,
thank you.
sir. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, anything from the state before we bring the jury in?
No, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense?
No,
All right, let's bring the jury in.
Alrighty. Oh, the son is going to talk with the dad, with defense daddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Make sure you have your own notepads and nobody else's notepads. Brittany, we continue to cross-examination.
Mr. Dontell, is your testimony today that you don't remember what was said at your guilty plea?
My testimony is not that I don't remember what was said at the guilty plea.
So you do remember that you told Ms. Walter that you know what happened to Greg Rice that night?
Objection.
Or do you admit that?
Oh, he said he would call. I'll allow that question. Go ahead.
Could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you admit that you told Ms. Walter as part of the guilty plea, you didn't know what happened to Greg Rice the night of October 2nd, 2020? Or did you not say that?
I don't recall saying that.
Well, that's just another lie, isn't it, Mr. Dontell? That's the biggest thing in your life, that guilty plea.
My answer would be no, it's not a lie.
Oh, it's not a lie.
You go.
Do you deny saying it?
I don't recall saying
That's
it.
been asked and answered. Let's move on.
So you don't recall what was said about you in your guilty plea?
Objection, asked and answered.
Same question.
Yeah, I think I cut you off on that.
No.
But that was, the guilty plea is a significant event in your life, wasn't it?
Yes.
You never pled guilty to anything before, did you?
No, I've never.
So, you were paying close attention to what was going on, I assume.
I was doing my best, yes.
And you were answering Judge Hyman's questions well as you could.
Of course.
And didn't he ask you if what Ms. Walter said was true and accurate? And you said, yes, sir.
I don't recall specifically.
Because if you had said no, sir, he wouldn't have taken the plea. Isn't that true?
I don't know. I've never done this before.
Is it more likely that you said yes, sir, or no, sir?
Objection, Your Honor. He said he doesn't recall.
Sustained.
All right, let's move on a little bit. Now, this business of you having an affair with Ms. Jackson, that ended up producing a pregnancy, didn't it?
Yes.
Good question.
You got no qualm about the fact that's your baby, right?
I've never been 100% certain in my heart.
You found out about it. You started making fun of it. You contacted Frank Howard, didn't you? And told him that you were going to get a trip to Florida out of this.
What's the question, sir?
I said, you contacted Frank Howard about her pregnancy. And y'all had some laughs over it. And you said, by the way, I'm going to get a free trip to Florida out of this. And then you went to Florida after the pregnancy was found determined. That's true?
I don't recall. This was 5 years ago,
You don't
sir.
recall that you made fun of your mistress with a friend and that you got a free trip to Florida out of the abortion question?
I don't recall that.
Did you send her memes showing abort on it? You don't deny wanting the baby aborted, do you?
I don't deny that we had agreed that she was going to get an abortion, yes.
You wanted the abortion, right?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, because you wanted to keep having sex with your wife and with Miss Jackson. You didn't want her showing. Isn't that true?
That's not the reason.
Well, let's put it like this. Did you do your wife the courtesy of wearing a condom when you were having sex with Miss Jackson? You don't remember using a condom or not? You don't remember anything, do you, Mr.?
Are you talking about a specific occasion?
Any occasion. Did you always use a condom to protect your wife from what may happen in the sex act or from her getting pregnant? Did you always use a condom?
No.
All right. So you had unprotected sex with her. And as a result of it, there was a pregnancy.
I believe I already answered that question as well.
Now, I think you testified earlier that you were hoping for a lesser sentence. Isn't that true?
Yes.
In this courtroom, you said that, so you have to remember that. That just happened about 45 minutes ago, so you remember saying that.
Argumentative.
I do remember saying that. Yes, sir.
Now, you have a history throughout these issues trying to get what you want. That's part of your MO. You wanted to have sex with your wife, and you want to have sex with Meagan Jackson. Not only did you want it, you got it for months. True?
True.
True.
And I'm sorry, but I feel like I've already answered that 5 or 6 times as well.
I want to hear it again. Mr. Dontell. You don't tell me what questions I ask.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, let's move on.
You're not going to start crying, are you?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, let's move on.
Now, you came in with forget the plea agreement for right now. You came in with a handwritten statement when you were sitting down with the police. Isn't that true?
Correct.
You
Yeah.
don't remember that?
True. I remember that.
Okay. Well, you just testified to it on correct examination.
And I just testified that I remember that.
Okay, you look like you weren't so sure.
Objection, Your Honor.
You sure?
Let's move on.
Is that true?
The question is, am I sure again?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure.
Now, that statement wasn't true, was it?
Which statement?
The written statement.
The written statement was not true in its entirety, no.
Okay, in other words, in the written statement, you said that you weren't around for any killing. That Miss Jackson came to you and told you she had killed Mr. Rice. Isn't that what you said in the written statement?
Yeah, I also have already testified today that I did not tell the complete truth until my attorney arranged with the police to put a GPS safety area around my family. And once that was in place, I told the complete truth, and I've done so ever since.
Well, you've admitted here, and this is one example of it, is it not, to producing false statements to significant officials like the police.
I did admit that already, yes,
And
sir.
this is just another example.
Objection, there's no question there.
Yes,
That's your question.
Isn't it?
I would say yes, that is another example.
Now, you testified that you're worried about your family, right?
Correct.
You weren't worried about them when you were having sex with Meagan Jackson, were you?
She had not threatened to kill me at that point.
Hold on a second. might remember this, let me ask you anyway. On the night of the killing, or sometime in connection with the date of October the 2nd, 2020, did you come in contact with did you certify the death of a body belonging to Mr. Fisher?
I don't recall, sir.
Do you remember talking to the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home people about the paperwork that hadn't been properly filled out? Does that ring a bell?
I'm not denying that that took place, but it does not ring a bell, no.
Do you remember what you did with that body?
I already testified I don't remember that body. I handled 600 bodies, sir, and this was 5 years ago.
Well, could you take him to the county morgue in the coroner's office?
Objection, Your Honor. He said he doesn't remember.
I'm not accepting that.
I'm allowed to explore it.
Could you have taken him to the county morgue there in the coroner's office?
I could have, yes, sir.
And do you know, sitting here today, what happened to that man? Where he was?
I don't recall that particular case.
And it happened the same day of what you described as the killing of Greg Rice, didn't it?
I don't recall that particular case.
You don't recall hardly anything, do you?
I recall quite a bit, but not any of the last several questions that you asked me.
You don't recall anything I'm trying to ask you that's got any significance. You just say you don't recall. Isn't that what you've been saying?
Please explain the significance, because I would love to answer it properly so that everybody understands what you're asking and what my answer is.
It's a mystery. It's the
It
same-
is.
It's the same day. And I understood your testimony. There's going to be a cooler that Mr. Rice goes in. So, for some reason, that body doesn't go to Myrtle Beach Funeral Home. It goes to the morgue, and nobody I know knows what happened to it after that. Do you? Let me guess. You don't recall.
I don't.
Regret?
Well, that was
course, no.
underwhelming. I mean, they didn't get into, like, are you going to not try to establish that your
I'm sorry.
client was at those locations?
Mr. Britton brought up the 10 Commandments. I think we all know that thou shalt not commit adultery is one of the commandments. Do you know if thou shalt not kill is also a commandment?
I do know that that is a commandment. Yes.
And yet did the defendant break that commandment?
Yes.
That question. She doesn't need to characterize what we're doing. She asked you a question.
Overruled.
Mr. Britton asked you if you lied multiple times and you admitted that you had. Did the defendant also lie multiple times?
Yes.
Mr. Britton seemed to poke fun of the fact that you were afraid of a quote-unquote little woman. Can you explain to the jury why, despite her apparent diminutive size, you are afraid of the defendant?
The primary reason is because I watched the defendant murder Gregory Rice by shooting him several times, and then she told me she would kill me if I didn't do what she asked in helping him get rid of her and to never tell the truth about what happened. The answer is yes, I'm afraid of her regardless of her diminutive size.
And then there's been quite a bit of questioning about what happened at the time of the plea and then leading up to your conversation with the state a couple days later. I think it would have been 2 or 3 days later. Was the defendant out of custody during that time period when you made the plea all the way up until sometime earlier this year?
I believe so. To my personal knowledge, I believe she was out on bond during that time.
Do you have the same, strike that. Mr. Britton was just asking you about, I don't even remember his name, Mr. Fisher or some decedent. Is there something about the night of October 2nd that makes you remember that night when you don't remember one decedent out of 600 that you've dealt with? Did that make sense to you?
Something particular that happened that night is the murder of Gregory Rice. I recall that and everything that goes along with that. But this Mr. Fisher, assuming that he died that date, was not, I didn't witness his death, and I didn't, I wasn't provided any details to recall specifics about that case. So I simply don't recall that particular case without some type of refresher.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, you may step back.
Thank you.
I feel like the defense just like gave up on that cross, but I mean,
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and break for the evening. Please leave your notepads in the jury box. Do not discuss the case even among yourselves. Don't conduct any independent investigations. Don't prosecute. I'm going to ask you to please be back at 9:15 tomorrow morning and we'll file.